Certain baseball players will disappoint you. It happens every year. Just look at last season when guys like Mookie Betts, Sandy Alcantara, Spencer Strider, George Kirby, Yordan Alvarez, Michael Harris, and Zach Gallen were just a few who did not play anywhere near their expectations. Some things like injuries can be difficult to predict and really derail a season, but oftentimes there are signs as to which players will struggle, and it's up to us to know them ahead of time. So right now I'm going to try and predict which players are going to struggle this coming season. If you guys are not already, please subscribe to the channel down below and don't forget to drop this video a like. Also, let me know down in the comments if any of you guys disagree with some of the players I picked here. Lastly, do not forget my position rankings videos are all coming out now. The entire infield was done last week. We have pitchers and outfielders yet to come. Please be on the lookout for those. All right, now the first guy on this list is Jesus Luzardo, starting pitcher on the Phillies. He was amazing last year. You guys see the stats above. He was a huge reason the Phillies were able to sustain their 96 win pace, win another NL East crown. But as of right now, I think there's a little bit too much helium on him, and there's a lot of risk factors that people are not properly considering. And this is not me saying anything that happened last year was a mirage. Adding that sweeper to his arsenal was amazing. He had the 6th highest strikeout rate in the league, the 7th best strikeout minus walk rate. By most measures, he truly was an elite pitcher, one that actually was underrated based on his final season ERA. But at the same time, this is only the second time in Luzardo's career where he's done a full, complete season healthy without injury. So this is a little bit difficult to project a similar workload for him again, when through his entire career, it's only happened 2 times. On top of the durability inconsistency, Luzardo has always had just some start-to-start, game-to-game, at-bat-to-at-bat inconsistencies literally as a pitcher that also bled into last season. For the most part, he was excellent, but there were 2 starts, one right at the end of May and then his next one in the beginning of June, where he allowed 20 earned runs in fewer than 6 innings pitched. Right alone, those 2 games, that completely tanked his ERA. And why, again, by the end of the season, you saw those ratios up there, they really didn't look that good, especially not in terms of the underlying stats Luzardo had. And there's a lot of people right now touting the fact that if you just took those 2 starts out of Luzardo's season, he would have been one of the best pitchers in the league. And yes, that actually is true. I use some of that analysis sometimes myself, hand up on that. But there's some really big reasons why you can't take those starts out. Number one is because, like I said before, Luzardo has struggled with inconsistency his entire career. And also, too, if we dig deeper into those starts individually, this bad game against the Brewers, I don't know why Rob Thompson left him in so long to give up 12 runs, but he gave up 12 runs, and these weren't cheapies. He got pieced up. Hard hit ball after hard hit ball, 2 home runs by Rhys Hoskins, and that entire poor outing was underscored by the fact that his sweeper was just really inconsistent, especially command-wise. And I'll get to why that's a big deal in a second. And then this next poor start, giving up 8 earned runs against the Toronto Blue Jays. Not the same level of quality of contact the Brewers did against him. In this game where they faced Luzardo, the Blue Jays put 9 right-handed hitters in their lineup, 0 lefties to go up against the left-handed Luzardo. That's a very big deal because in that start, Luzardo had to lean a bit more on his changeup than he does in most other outings. That pitch just wasn't up to snuff, and again, now in those 2 blow-up outings, we see the thing that's really stopping Luzardo from actually ascending into the top tier of pitchers. At the end of the day, right-handed batters can just kind of corner him. I mentioned the fact that that sweeper command wasn't really great against the Brewers. Sweeper is not really a great pitch ever to throw against an opposite-handed hitter. I mentioned that Toronto start, the changeup was so-so, and all this leans on a fastball that has good velocity, plus velocity at 96 miles per hour, but really not a great shape. So if Luzardo's velocity ever kind of tails down a little bit, that shape makes that pitch very hittable. But at the end of the day, because that pitch isn't great in both of those aspects, it's not really a foundational type of pitch you can lean heavily on for an entire repertoire when against most of the hitters you're going to face, right-handed hitters. Both of his secondary offerings are just not really elite. Here's a great at-bat from his start like a month and a half later from Luzardo against Romy Gonzalez on the Red Sox. I think illustrates all of these points. The Phillies jumped out to an early lead and Luzardo was cruising through the early and middle innings. Then we got to the 5th. Luzardo struggled through the bottom of the Red Sox lineup and then the top of the order turned over for the 3rd time. He lost notorious lefty smasher Rob Refsnyder with some changeups that missed the zone, a poor sweeper, and then a poorly located fastball. Then after losing his concentration, walked Jarren Duran on 4 consecutive pitches, which brought another lefty masher, Romy Gonzalez, to the plate with the bases loaded and 2 outs. Luzardo started him off with a changeup below in the zone that Romy got a piece of. Then he spit in a fastball outside the zone, and when Luzardo tried to come back after him with another changeup, he missed his spot badly, and Romy absolutely crushed the pitch for a 2-out grand slam to cap off a 6-run inning and blow the big lead that the Phillies had mounted. This right here kind of encapsulates what is stopping Luzardo from getting to that next level of pitchers. He can lose his focus, he can be inconsistent, and when those right-handed hitters come to the plate with a plan after they've seen him for a few times, it can be difficult for him to execute. And this is not even including all the injury concerns we have for him. Luzardo did end the season on a blazing hot stretch. He was amazing in the playoffs. I think the guy's a great pitcher, but there's just simply too many red flags for me right now with him to take him as the top 20-ish pitcher he's going on in most fantasy websites. Next, we have Pete Crow Armstrong, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, this one's pretty easy. Pete Crow is an amazing player. He's very fun to watch, one of the best power speed threats in the entire league, but his approach will always lead to massive cold streaks and just general inconsistency. And the fact that right now he's being taken sometimes in the first 2, 3, or 4 rounds of fantasy drafts, you just don't want to buy that kind of inconsistency at that price. And to talk a little bit about PCA's approach issues, no one in the league swung more often than him last year. It's not exactly a bad thing. You need to swing the bat to hit the ball. We love that. But in swinging so much, the only players in the league who chased more pitches out of the strike zone than Pete Crow Armstrong were Yanyer Diaz and Michael Harris. You do not want to be in a group with these guys when you're talking about plate discipline. And with all that swinging for PCA, he doesn't really have a very high contact rate either. It's just simply okay. Swings and misses more than league average. All of that together just means that you're going to have major peaks and serious valleys. Like, you guys see the full season stat line above. That's amazing. He was, truthfully, one of the most productive players in all of Major League Baseball last season. If you guys play in ESPN standard points leagues, he was the number 40 hitter overall and the 11th ranked outfielder by the end of the season. That's phenomenal. If you guys play in 5x5 rotisserie leagues, he was the number 19 hitter overall, the number 7 outfielder. Again, that power speed combo plays way up when you guys are playing categories or rotisserie-based leagues. Throw the more than 90 runs and RBIs apiece on top of that, and you have a star right here. But now check out his splits between the first half and the second half. It's almost comical to see how much of a cliff he fell off after the All-Star break. Through July, this guy was legitimately an MVP candidate, hitting and playing defense like one. After the break, he was basically like Jacob Young. And this is not me in any way saying that second half for BCA is predictive of what's going to happen this year or indicative that those struggles will carry with him again to this regular season. All I'm trying to do is illustrate how inconsistent he has been, he can be, and he will continue to be unless there's a material change in his approach at the plate. This is very similar to how we view Michael Harris right now, or to a lesser degree, someone like Ceddanne Rafaela. It's just too much of a free swinger, not enough of a plan up there. Love the physical tools, love the upside. Ceiling is still amazing, but we need to focus on floor, safety, and stability at the top of our drafts. And right now where PCA is going, you just don't have enough of that. I hope you guys sold high last year, what I was telling you to on this channel. And if he does struggle this year, like I'm anticipating, I will definitely be buying back in on the dip next year. Next up, we have Spencer Strider. And I do not think he will be as bad as he was last year when he came back from injury, but he's being way, way, way overdrafted right now. Too many people still see Spencer Strider as the ace he was a few years ago before this most recent serious arm trouble, and he's nowhere close to that guy anymore. I mean, right now in ESPN leagues, he's being ranked around the top 20 starting pitchers. That's vile. Even in the high-stakes leagues on the NFBC, he's around the top 30. I am so out on those prices, both of them, even top 30. He'd be about like 10, 15 spots behind that for me when my pitching rankings do come out next week. And the big reason for that is because when Spencer Strider ascended into this ace, he was an electric 2-pitch guy with an upper 90s fastball that missed tons of bats wherever he wanted to put it, and a disgusting slider that played off it really well. When he was at his best through 2022 and 2023, that fastball sat between 97 and 98 miles per hour with a 15% swinging strike rate. It was an elite swing and miss pitch, something that was foundational to his entire game. When he came back from injury last season, that fastball was down a little bit, sitting between 95 and 96 miles per hour, but the vertical action on that pitch dropped dramatically, and that was a big reason why it got way fewer swings and misses. That's a totally different pitch. That's one that was, again, super elite, something you can lean on as a pitcher, to one that you almost have to try and start to hide unless you can command it perfectly, which Strider's never been able to do, but he's never had to do that because of how electric the pitch was. All this to say, his slider is still elite, and that pitch will still miss tons and tons of bats, will be one of the best breaking balls in the whole league, but this repertoire needs something else right now. It's just not enough to justify the pitcher he's currently expected to be by his draft cost. I was hoping that when Strider came out this spring, we saw a lot more curveballs, a lot more changeups, maybe some kind of different game planning with the fastball and slider, maybe a better ability to just hit spots with that fastball instead of just throwing it high middle and hoping they swung under it. Rather, we got a really weird story about the radar gun potentially being turned off just for Strider's live BP appearance. A lot of he said, she said with Braves people, Strider, reporters after that. Then we had a spring outing where the velocity was way down. His most recent spring outing, his velocity bumped up a bit again. At least it was towards the point it was last year, and the vertical life on that fastball took a little step up too, but still nowhere near he was back when he was his best. And right now that draft cost kind of tells us that there's at least a chance people are considering the fact that he can get close to his best again. And as of right now, unless there's a material change, I don't see that happening. Now, last up on the big list is Zach Neto, shortstop of the Angels. I like Neto a lot, objectively too, but there's way too much helium around him right now. And to me, he kind of looks a little bit like the hitter version of Jesus Luzardo, and I'll explain why. First off, he was just amazing last year. You guys see those stats above. Neto was a complete revelation for that Angels lineup. And that bona fide threat to be a true 30-30 guy has sent his ADP soaring so far this draft season. He's crept into the top 25 in the high-stakes rotisserie drafts on the NFBC. He's top 50 right now if you're in an ESPN draft room, and he's around the top 30 in the Yahoo draft room. It is funny to see those differences in ADP. A video I'm planning to do over the next week or two is compare and contrast the ADPs and the rankings on every single website to tell you guys targets and fades based on what the other players in your draft room are looking at. But again, that's coming next week. Back to Neto. I think it's easy to forget that he has a somewhat significant injury history. Just a year ago, he missed opening day after a kind of undisclosed, half undisclosed shoulder surgery that happened after the 2024 season when Neto apparently ended that season injured. Again, it was totally mum on this injury. We still don't even know the exact surgery Neto had. The Angels don't really disclose or report these things very well. We just didn't get the specifics, but he came back shortly over opening day and then, of course, was great. You guys see the stats above. You guys watched Neto play last year. But there was a teeny tiny slight injury scare towards the middle of June, back of June, where Neto slid into a base, jammed that shoulder. He had to go for an MRI. He wound up being okay, but that was a scary moment. And again, you really hate shoulder injuries from young hitters. Those are things that can really destroy power, which is one serious concern I still have for him heading into this season. But on top of that, I don't know if I really trust the way or how he broke out last season. The big thing that bumped up for Neto last season was just his general power production. But he did that without any kind of true uptick in his bat speed, which is still a decent bit below the major league average. It's kind of hard to figure out how that power jumped up so much. Without that high bat speed, Neto's able to convert his batted balls into homers by just pulling the bulk of his fly balls. I mean, look at the spray chart right here. You see all of the power for the right-handed Neto to the pull side. That is just the way he generates power, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. We love to see a pulled fly ball. But last season, the thing that took Neto to the next level was doubling down on this pulled fly ball approach. Again, he wants to pull the ball. He wants to go out and get it. He wants to do that without elite bat speed. So in turn, he moved about 4 inches further up in the batter's box and was making contact with the baseball about 6 inches further compared to where he was connecting with it during the 2024 season. Also, in doing so, he widened his stance a good bit, a lot more balanced, a lot more bouncy, a lot more agile in the box. And in doing so, being more aggressive with the way he was going out and hitting the ball, all of his quality of contact metrics trended way up. And again, that supports this huge power breakout. He also took a similar level of aggressiveness to his swing decisions. While he was hitting the ball better and just being one of the most feared hitters in this Angels lineup, hitters were pitching him a bit more carefully. In response to that, Neto did not wait back and try to work deep counts, get into a hitter situation, and then put his A swing on the ball. He said, I don't care. I'm swinging early, I'm swinging often, and when I swing early, I'm taking my hacks. I love all that. Again, this is a tenacious baseball player who wants to go out there and do damage. That's an amazing mindset to have. But I am curious how the league adjusts back to Neto after seeing a full year of this approach from him and how he adjusts back to that. There's also a thing happening with Neto where we've seen now for 2 consecutive seasons, some big time improvements from him. I think when this happens, a lot of us who play fantasy baseball or just watch the game, we now expect development to be linear. You got better year 1, you got better year 2, and now you're going to get better year 3, better year 4, just until you become one of the best players in the world, you reach your prime. I'm really not sure if this will simply sustain at that rate or if Neto's in for a bit of a big adjustment this year. If he is, he doesn't have great on-base skills to lean back on. He doesn't really have a very good supporting cast, so pitchers can kind of pitch to him however they want. He's probably not going to have a very steady diet of run-scoring opportunities because of, again, how weak that Angels lineup is. And it could be a situation where if that power dries up some, the entire profile kind of collapse in on itself. Not to say he's not a very good player, not to say I don't think he's like a 25-25 guy, but there are too many variables right here for him to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick in most fantasy leagues. Now that's the end of the big list, but I have a nice list of quick hitters for you guys who I'm not as passionate about not drafting, but guys who are really kind of entering my mind when I see them staring at me in a draft room. Number 1, tough one here being Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I love Yamamoto. He's still a top 5 pitcher in the league for me. I'm still regarding him as such, but I kind of can't ignore what we saw from him workload-wise last year. We went through 173 regular season innings and then 37 innings through the playoffs. And you guys saw his heroics in the World Series. He was the World Series MVP. He's one of the main reasons the Dodgers won that series against the Blue Jays. But that was some strenuous work he did. Now he's going to pitch again in the World Baseball Classic. This is just a lot of innings on an arm for Yamamoto, who had these big-time workloads in Japan. I don't doubt this at all. But it's just enough reason where if there's any tweak, anything goes wrong, any kind of fatigue, anything is not right, the Dodgers will find a way to shut him down for 2-3 weeks a month, and then you'll lose tons of fantasy value because of that. The Dodgers do not care about the regular season. I do think we have to consider that when we draft players from their team. Then we have a slew of players who are going through some injury stuff right now in spring training with Joe Ryan, Jordan Westberg, Hunter Green, and Jackson Holliday. Ryan's had a back flare-up. I still really like Joe Ryan as a pitcher, but sometimes when these things crop up during spring training, they can linger and just make the season very difficult, again, regardless of the player's talent. Similarly for Jordan Westberg, he just is kind of hurt all the time now. He has the injury-prone tag. I don't know what's going to happen with his elbow. If he needs Tommy John surgery, he will miss the whole year. I think at minimum, we're not even going to see him until the middle of May. Hunter Green, just this sucks. If he didn't get injured, he probably would have been in my top 5 starting pitchers heading into the season. He's talking about the fact that he pitched through bone spurs last year. There was a quote where he said he hopes to be with the Reds for the playoff push. We don't like to hear that as fantasy managers. And then Jackson Holliday, I was kind of down on him anyway at his ADP. And now with this hamate injury, I don't know where his power production is going to be. It just feels like it could be another weird, strange season for Holliday. Moving on here, we have 2 guys who came up last year who were incredible superheroes for their teams, but are having their workloads be brought up a bit more slowly heading into this season. Cam Schlittler also dealt with a little bit of a back strain. He has now come back in spring training, but I don't really like to see these injuries flare up, especially a guy like Schlittler who was gaining velocity and velocity and velocity all through the end of last season to the postseason. It's just enough for me to pause. And Trey Savage, again, he's being brought on slowly. I still like Trey Savage as a pitcher. But the fact the Blue Jays aren't going to unleash him as like a true starting pitcher through the first month of the season, that's enough for me not to draft him. Then just a general worry for relievers. A lot of times, especially in the high stakes league, relievers get pushed way up the board. Just always be aware of the opportunity cost when you're drafting relievers so highly. If they're not Mason Miller, Edwin Diaz, or I guess at this point, Yohan Duran, Andres Munoz, and maybe Cade Smith, the skills kind of lead to some risk because it's just easy for a reliever to kind of go haywire, not be as good as you expect. If you spend a premium pick on a reliever, you're definitely missing out on a premium player somewhere else. Just always manage your risk when you're drafting relievers in your leagues. If you guys play in points leagues, don't take relievers till all the way at the end. They do not matter. If you're in a high stakes league or rotisserie league, categories league, you need them, but really be careful where and when you're taking them. That's it, guys. That's the do not draft list. Please, if you're not subscribed, subscribe down below. We got more ranking videos coming out. A bunch of ranking videos just came out. Those are going to be in the description. Tons more fantasy content coming before the year. Regular baseball content coming, of course, as well. Thank you guys so much. I will see you next time.